Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're having an amazing week. Oh, I've got to adjust. Oh my goodness, I'm so high. All right, anyhow, I'm holding my new K for Kelly wine glass that my lovely daughter got me. I literally said, "Why didn't you do SW for Seahorse Whisperer?" But that didn't go over very well. Anyhow, I'm sipping on Pinot Noir. Because I'm going to do a New Year's resolution where I'm drinking less, losing some weight, but I'll still be here for Wine Wednesday, sipping on some. So really, seriously, guys, like Chardonnay, I can just drink. Pinot Noir, you sip, right? So I'm switching to Pinot Noir. Anyhow, Holly, what are you sipping on? What are you doing? How you doing?
Right now I've got Celebration, and I'm kind of on the same kick as you. So I've got 30 pounds left to lose before I reach my ultimate goal. And so I'm hoping to do that this year. So I'm kicking things into high gear.
Well, I
So
know when I came to visit Holly in California, she was looking like a hottie. I mean, she was looking like a hottie.
just
We'll leave it
about
there.
there.
Yeah.
Just about there. I went in the last about year and a half. I went from a size 18 to almost a 6.
See?
And I'm 5'9". I'm tall. So when I
Yeah.
get to a size 6, that'll probably be it. And I'm roughly 20 to 30 pounds from that now. So I do
Does
I
that
do
mean you're
look
going to
all
be less
right
weight?
now. I look good now. I'm probably, I could lose, not, but I want to lose the last part of it. So
How much did you weigh in that bikini that you posted?
Right.
I want to say 175 probably. My
That was a pretty
goal
good weight
my
to hold in,
goal
I'll
is
tell you.
about 140. I want to be about 140.
She's tall. She's much
I'm
taller than me.
tall, so even I can weigh more and look smaller in a
Yes.
picture. But
Yes.
yeah, I
But
do
but
want
point
to.
point being, we're gonna get to seahorses, guys. I promise. But point being is that still sipping the wine. We're still gonna do Wine Wednesday for sure. Cheers to that. But we're all gonna, back up, do those New Year's resolutions, which we can talk about further if you guys would like to. Totally up to you. It is open chat, so we're here for questions about seahorses, just to chat with the community, anything you guys want to talk about. But if we get down to talking about what's going on with us, it will probably be about our New Year's resolutions and what we're not going to do so much of. But anything new on the seahorse scape, guys? Anything new with the seahorses before we dive into that, Holly?
Yeah, actually, I got a new pump that I installed today for the display tank in my living room. So Dandy and Sadie got this. Can show you the box. And I
Nice.
know you see it backwards, I think, when I'm
Right,
holding
right,
it
right.
up. But
Right.
I found this on Amazon. It's from Higer. And the cool thing about this pump is that it's got a um, battery that kicks in if the power goes out
Oh, nice.
automatically and
Nice.
runs, I think it runs for about 8 hours. It says
Yeah.
on that. So if we have a power outage or something and I'm not home, it'll carry the tank until I can get home and get generators started and stuff. But the main reason I got it is because I've been using this, which was also on Amazon, and you remember seeing this at my house.
Yep.
Okay, so this pump, I have one on each tank, And this is it's just to run airlines. So this isn't
Yep.
like the one that, actually runs the tank. But I have one on each of the tanks. The one in this back room actually runs my freshwater tank also because it has what, one, two, three, six outlets on it.
Right.
But it's loud as heck.
Mm-hmm.
And it runs super hot. It
Yep.
vibrates a whole bunch. So this thing sometimes gets to where it's barely hanging, and that's all
Yep.
super loud, not blowing air. I have to adjust these things all the time because the pump vibrates itself into different airflows. So it's not consistent. So sometimes the valve is working, sometimes it's not. I've been fighting it. And my husband got fed up with the loudness of it. And so I'm like, well, I got to find a better air pump.
Okay.
So
Hi,
I
Bonnie.
got this one, and then I have some advice on it because on Amazon it comes in a 10-watt version and an 18-watt.
Okay.
I got the 10-watt because I figured it was enough and it was cheaper. But what I didn't realize is that the 10-watt does not come with all the attachments.
Uh,
It doesn't have this type of thing. It's got two airline outlets on it. And I need this many. So thankfully, because Scott's a good do-it-yourselfer like Ray is, he took one of these, from my other pump because I have an extra one. And what he did was he ran the two airlines from this backwards this way into this,
okay.
used some kind of a bolt nut thing to close off this valve. So I have two incoming airlines
They're
and
blowing
the
back
rest
out.
are outgoing. And this
Ooh.
it's not sealed, so it blows out some air, but it's still enough to run all my stuff.
Ugh.
And that pump is so quiet you cannot hear it at all.
Okay.
And that
And I
one,
So,
love
just stick a pencil in it and plug off if you want the air to stop coming out.
Well, that's what we did, but it's not the right size.
Well, you can find something to stick in it.
okay.
It
Okay.
is
So,
there. We did stick something in it. It's like a metal piece, like a bolt or a screw or something, but it's not a perfect fit.
so I
So
love
Scott
the
says he'll have to put Teflon tape or something on it, but
so
it
I
worked.
love the genius that Scott is, that he figured this out to use that piece to make it go in and out, and that's amazing. But let's back up a minute to I'm experiencing the same problem where you buy an air pump, you've got it running in my case anyways, I've got it running my K1 media reactor, which is
Mm-hmm.
very important to the tank.
Yeah.
I have it running a separate hospital tank. I'll tell you guys about that later. And then I've got it running different things, right?
Yeah. Same.
And then all of a sudden you start noticing you have to turn it up. It's not working as well. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have to turn it up more. It's not working as well. And then all of a sudden you realize your K1's not spinning because it's not working as well as it should be, or it dies. So,
Mm-hmm.
is there some manufacturer thing for these air pumps? Is my first question. Like, I only had mine for 2 years.
Well, these ones, I want to say I've got three of these. I have a backup one, and then I had one for each tank.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all been working, but it's so random. Like this one that I just replaced, it was on the verge of dying, we thought.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like a week or two before the new one came, it started working perfectly fine again. It
Mm,
rattled itself into whatever right position it needed to be in, and it's been running great the last 2 weeks. And
mm.
before that, it would get so loud that you're like, oh my God, it's going to die. And then I had to
So you think it's
change
just the
the
adjustment?
valve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's inside because these ones, they shake a lot.
Yes.
The vibration is so strong on these, and my new one doesn't do that. You can't even tell it's running. And it's got an adjustment on it, like it's digital. You can adjust the airflow on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this one and I didn't notice, it wasn't obvious to me on Amazon, but the 10 watt, like I said, it came with like giant air stones. I mean, this big, like three of them, biggest air stones I've seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And two airlines. It's got two outlets. And then the 18-watt one has a diverter like this, and this fat airline to come out, and then
Yep.
it branches off, and it comes with a bunch of air stones. So when I ordered this one, I was expecting to have
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important for anybody who's interested that's looking at it. But I'm really impressed with it. It's got a 1 year warranty. I don't remember. I want to say this one probably did, but I've had it actually beyond the year. I've had these ones going on a few years. I mean, almost as long as I've had the Seahorses.
Yeah.
Which they're 4 years old. So I mean, it's lasted a few years, but it's never been great.
Yeah. We're always
You know, they
looking for a better. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but they're
But
cheaper. They're like the
sure.
cheap version. So the other
And
one was an upgrade.
no, and
By the
that's
way,
great.
a lot of pumps you can buy kits to rebuild them once the diaphragm starts losing the pressure.
What?
Mm.
A lot of
Says
pumps
there's kids to
you can
rebuild
buy
them.
repair kits.
Yeah. 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 But I'm just asking, like, overall, if we're telling someone, hey, K1 is the way to go for media for a tank that you don't want to do naturally, you want to do an artificial tank, you want your pump to literally run the K1 and or whatever else is in the sump, and that's going to be your filtration. How long should they be able to count on that?
I've got two Danner pond pumps I've been using oh since back in the late '90s.
Yeah, see, but they don't make them like that anymore, right?
Well,
I
see,
mean,
I rebuilt them once. I got a kit and rebuilt them and give them more life to them. I could
so
probably rebuild them now, but I'm not using them now, so they're just sitting down in the basement.
right.
But they're 100-watt pumps.
But so you can get a kit and rebuild it for
Yeah.
sure if you're a DIY kind of person. But if you're just me, lazy,
Well,
don't
they
want to
usually give you
DIY,
instructions for that.
Don't want to mess with
and
it.
don't want to mess with it, just want it to work. And I literally, I'm so glad Holly brought this up because literally Sean was like, what the hell's going on with your tank? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you don't hear that? And I'm oblivious because
Yeah.
I'm in my own world, and and it's making
Yeah.
these loud noises. And I go over and I notice the K1's tumbling more softly. It's not going as fast,
Yeah, that
and
happened
I
to
have it
me.
hooked up to a different hospital tank, and that's bubbling less. And I'm like, so my air pump's going out. I get that. I see that. But how can we know that in advance so that no one has, like, if K1's their their one media that it goes out and they don't know it. Like, how often should people check their pumps, or if there's a sound,
I'll
what do you do?
I'll say I just keep a spare. Like I said, I've got
That's good.
3 of
Good.
these. I have an extra that I keep just in case.
Yeah.
One of those goes out, but it sucks too. So it's like choosing the least of the suckiness.
What was the brand of that again?
Well, what?
What brand was that again?
Oh, the
pump.
old one, this one,
Oh, the new one.
the new one's a Higer.
Oh,
It's a good, yeah. I have my heater is a Higer too. They make
how do you
pretty good
spell Higer?
equipment.
It's backwards, Ray.
That's backwards. Yeah. How do you spell Higer?
Hygger.
Oh, never heard of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a heater that I from them. They make a lot of aquarium stuff, and they're generally one of the better ones, I think.
No problem with the company. I'm just asking in general because we promote using a sump, and sumps usually don't run on airline run type
Yeah, that's
stuff.
additional. Yeah.
It's additional for sure. But for your Robert King char chambers, for your K1 media reactors, for any kind of anything that you're doing with any air
Hospital
pump,
tank, if you need
yeah,
open air lines, if you
yeah.
do like me and run bubblers or any kind of air that you need going to the tank.
So I would say, just in general, we can't let that be our only means of filtration, because as you're seeing,
Mhm.
these pumps slowly stop working as well and then don't work, or don't work as well, or whatever. So we can't make that the only means of filtration. And I love that Holly give us your review, because if we find one that works better than the others, let's promote them, because
And we'll see what I have to say about another 3 months, 6
yeah,
months,
right, right, right,
whatever, because I just set it up today.
yeah,
But but it's amazing because I'm used to hearing the pumps all
yeah,
the time.
yes,
And this one, I can't hear it at
silent,
all. You can stand right next to it and you don't hear it at all. I've never had a pump that quiet.
I wonder how
And
they did that.
I keep a lot of pumps because well, we've had a lot of fish tanks over the years. And
Sure.
when you're doing freshwater tanks, a lot of times you just have the little pumps. So I have a lot of air pumps, and they've always been kind of a thing. That's why I have so many, is because they'll work for a while and then they don't. And then they decide to start working again. And Scott's like Ray, he can take them apart and put them back together and then they work again. But I
Sure.
don't do that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go buy another $10 pump.
Right, right,
Right.
right, right.
So I have quite a collection of those. But one thing that I've always liked about the bigger pumps is that you can run one pump for a bunch of stuff at once
Yes,
instead of having like the little pumps are not enough to drive much equipment. So
right.
you end up with like 6 different little pumps when you could have just one big pump with everything attached to it.
Yeah, but you're depending on that one pump for so much. I'm just curious, like, I don't even remember. Does it say on the package this is good for 1 year or however long?
Mhm.
Because, like you said,
You lose
or like
track.
I said, even mine is now. I noticed the other day it was making noise. It was vibrating.
Mhm.
I had to turn it up to make everything keep functioning the way I need it to function. So
Yeah, because it says on the box 1 year.
Gotcha.
And a lot of
Okay.
them, I think most of them say a year. But the thing is, I forget.
Yeah. Sure.
And when you don't get rid of the box or whatever, I keep my paperwork on everything, though. I'm glad I do that. I have binders. You saw my binders of
Oh
paperwork
yes.
when
Holly
you're
is
here.
very
I
organized.
I keep everything. So if something expensive is breaking down, then I'm going to hit up that company and say,
Sure.
"What's up?" And
Sure.
most of them have been great. With supplying parts or whatever I needed. But on the pumps, like the air pumps, most of them that I've had weren't that expensive. So I'm like, okay, just buy another $20 pump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not
Right.
quite the same if something's like $100. But this one was not, it's not super expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. I think this one is around $60 and they
Mhm.
have a $10 coupon right now.
Oh,
And the
nice.
difference between this and the 18-watt one was $80. So there's like a $20 difference between the two.
Hmm.
But there's a $10 coupon on them. And like I said, I didn't realize because I don't think I really need as strong a pump as the 18-watt. Obviously, the 10 watts working. It's just that it didn't come with the accessories.
Gotcha.
It has a different air setup.
See,
So, but made it work.
I'm personally always about buying a pump that does more, but is
Hmm.
adjustable so I can turn it down because of what we're
Yeah.
talking about. I know
Hmm.
that as time goes on, it's going to start working less and less. So I can, like in this case,
And you
Shelby's like,
might
why
need
is
some
it making this a
outlets, but
sound?
not others. Like I
And I
don't
go,
use all my outlets at once because I have some of them shut off because they're for if I need to run a nursery or a hospital tank, then I've got extra lines for that.
yes, yes.
But like right now on this new one, all I'm running is the char chamber. Actually, I've got that on another pump still. So I'm running um, two air lines to the tank of like bubbler type stuff and my K1.
Okay.
And I put the char chamber on a separate pump all by itself because of the problem with this. It kept not working.
Mm-hmm.
Bubbles would stop coming out. So I'd turn it up and then it's
Yep.
tons of bubbles. Then I
Yep.
turn it down a little bit, no bubbles.
Yep.
And it was a constant fight. So I found one of my old little pumps, like for a 10-gallon tank or something, and just plugged the char chamber into that
Yep.
because I don't have to mess with it. I leave it on all the time. Whereas the bubblers in the tank, I turn them off when I'm feeding. So I shut those valves down.
Yep.
And every time I'm adjusting those valves, like I said, it messes with the pump. So it changes the airflow
Yeah.
and then it's not the same every time. Ugh.
So wait a minute, wait a minute. Let me understand because like for instance, what you're talking about exactly in my
Mhm,
case in my tank, I've
mhm,
got the airflow to the tank. It's connected to the K1 media reactor and the Robert King char chamber.
mhm,
And so when I feed, I turn it off. I
mhm.
unplug it completely and then plug it back in when I'm done. You're saying you leave the Robert King
I
char chamber?
leave the pump on. I leave the pump on, but I shut down the valves to whatever I'm not using.
Mm.
So I turn the valves back on to whatever accessories I'm using instead
So
of
what?
shutting off the whole pump because to shut it off, I don't have a controller for that. It's plugged into my
Sure,
strip. So I'd have to go behind the door and get it out of the
sure.
strip to unplug it. So it's easier to flip the valves.
No, I get it. But so is anything running when you turn those valves off?
Mm-hmm.
What's running?
The K1, because I always leave that on.
Okay,
So the
so
valve to the K1 is always on, but the accessories that I don't use all the time, I shut valves on and off.
but I mean you get that when you shut the valves to the other things, the K1's
Mhm.
going faster, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
And
mean,
it varies. Like I'm running right now, I run the K1 pretty fast now because I've had
okay,
it so long that it's getting
gucky,
like algae on it, so
right?
it's heavier.
Yeah.
So it's spinning faster than it was when I first put it in because if I don't keep it spinning fast, it'll stop spinning. Like if it goes too slow, it gets to a point where it stops.
And we that's a wonderful
So I have it
conversation.
tumbling now.
I was going to say that's a
I have
wonderful
found it
conversation
stopped before.
that we have to have about K1 and about how you have to pay attention to whether it keeps tumbling, how fast it should be tumbling, but we
Mhm.
can do that at a later date. For today, I'm more concerned with the air pumps because, again, I'm sick of buying new ones. Like, are they only supposed to last for a year? I mean,
That's
Can I jump in on air
yeah,
pumps here? It's hard to get a word in when you girls
I
get
know,
going.
Ray. We're
First off, I don't know whether I'm going to remember everything I want to say now, but the first thing is you don't necessarily need to buy an air pump that has a regulator to make it go faster or slower or whatever. You can use a bleed valve. You just
have those
a simple
too.
bleed valve where you can bleed off anything that you don't want. Another thing is when you buy an air pump, buy it with more output than what you want, unless you're doing a single item.
Mhm.
Every time you buy a cheaper pump and then you hook up a few things to it and make an adjustment on one item, it's going to screw up all the others on that system.
Yep.
So if you buy a pump that has enough output, there'll be very little change in any of the others when you make a change in just one. You should be able to completely open up one line just free and easy and have no real noticeable differences in the other problems. But if you're going to go cheap on the pump so that you're getting just enough air out for all of them, well, every time you're going to change one, you're going to have to change all the rest.
Yep.
Now, the other thing is on your gang valves, that one that you have there is basically a stopcock type gang valve. You're much better off to buy, first of all, a plastic one that isn't going to be corroded by the salt water, but also buy the ones that have a needle valve. So when you're screwing that in, it screws in a needle point screw that goes into a tapered seat, and you have a lot better finessing of the actual airflow going. When you buy the stopcock type, it's very hard to control those. For me, I always had with the stopcock type, especially the metal ones,
Mhm.
I had to take a pair of pliers and put on it because I could move the pliers really just a little wee bit, but it moved even less back at the on the little valve, so I could finesse it that way.
Mhm.
But it's much easier if you get the needle valve type of gang valve, so that you do have that very sensitive
Can you
flow
Yeah.
wait,
control.
wait, can you describe a little bit more because I don't know understand what you're meaning by needle valve.
Well, a stopcock valve, you're turning it. There's a hole through the valve, and there's the holes through the body.
Yeah.
When you turn that stopcock, it lines up the holes when it's fully
Mhm.
open, and then to partially open it, you're going to have the hole in the stopcock just misaligned by the amount that you need to block the flow to get it down to what you want. With a needle valve, the valve screws into the flow chamber, and with the needle point, as it goes in, it screws in slow. It makes a fine adjustment rather than trying to move this stupid valve where you move it
Yeah,
a
you
little
move
wee
it.
bit.
It's hard to control these. I see what you're saying. The thing is, I didn't know anything like that existed. I didn't even know this existed until it came with my pump. And the one that comes with this is different. It's plastic. Like it didn't come with mine, but the one that's 18 watt has a plastic one. And I wonder if it's the needle valve type. But where would
Well,
you
there's plastic
find it,
ones that
like
are just
on
gang
its
valves.
own? Like, who makes these, or how do you find them? Is it an aquarium thing or a plumbing thing?
Yeah, aquarium stores have them all. Not all of them will carry the needle valve type because a lot of them just go for something that they can sell cheap. And the needle valve usually going to cost you another dollar or two more for say a four gang
Mhm.
outlet. The needle valve type will be $1 or $2 more than what the metal ones
Well,
will.
see, my
At least here in
aquarium
Canada.
stores won't have these at all. They don't even have a lot of basic stuff. But what is it called so I can find it online? What is that actually called?
It's a gang valve.
A what?
It's an airline gang valve.
Airline gang valve. That way I can look for them.
Yeah, no,
Now,
this
do
is
they
great.
come in different sizes also? Like, for instance, this one only has the giant airline for the input. Do they have ones
You,
that are
you can get
little?
you can get just two outlets. You can get four. You can get three. You can get six. And if you want more than that, you can hook them together because one end of it always has an open outlet to it to be able to connect to another one.
Now, is this a universal size, or does this part, the ingoing, is this come smaller sizes like regular airline, not the fat airline?
Yeah, most of them are going to have just a standard outlet
Oh,
on it. But
cool.
the thing is, you can bush it to whatever you need. Like if your air pump has got, most air pumps have bigger uh, airline output tubes, and you have to either bush it down to go on a gang valve or find a gang valve that has a larger input with a standard, I think it's 3/16 diameter outputs.
Yeah, because my new one, that was the issue, is it's got the two outlets on my pump are the normal size airline. They're not fat like this. And that's why Scott had to make it to where the ingoing came this side.
Okay, I'm going to put up a link on the private chat thing here. If you can
Yeah.
post that or pull it up, it's um, it's a three gang valve, but it's a screw type, and it's plastic.
All right, Ray's doing his research. I'm going to share it. Here we go.
Yeah, let's take a look.
And let's see.
But I've got the same thing, but I've got it in twos, threes, and fours.
Mhm.
All right, hang on. Let me pull it up.
But when you need to, you can connect together. If you need more than four, you just put a piece of airline between the two of them.
Mhm.
All right, here we go. I'm showing it. Trying to. You guys see what I'm
We'll
sharing?
get- Yeah, I got to make it big. Let's see.
Right, but
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, they sell these all over, Ray. But what I'm asking is like, I think what Holly was asking is, what if they have the wrong size airline?
Well, you bush.
What does bush mean?
Well, you can take a larger one, and then you can buy a connector that will connect to the larger one, and the other end will connect to a smaller one.
Okay. All right.
So you buy whatever you need, and just make it work. Or if you don't have something like that, don't want to go out. If you're like me, you got lots of junk lying around, you make one.
Gotcha.
Like Scott did.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. I'm going to stop
So you just
sharing.
kind of have to know what you're looking for, I think, is the thing. Like I said, I didn't know all this stuff existed until it came.
Yeah, right.
So those
And then
things,
I'm like, okay, what
because
do we
they're
do with
plastic,
this?
they're not going, because they're not metal, they're not going to corrode.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're the screw-in type, you have very sensitive adjustments on them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have a large enough pump, you're still going to have the same problem. Whereas if you uh, screw one closed, the other ones are going to go running faster. Or if you aren't using them all at the same time and you undo one, the others will start going slow again. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to make sure that you buy the correct pump that's going to give you more air than what you need just for those for the number of things that you're running on it. Always plan for more.
So, Ray, back to my original question. Is there a timeline that you, sorry guys, I keep forgetting my video's not on. I'm still here. But is there a timeline that you recommend as far as, I use an air pump to run certain things in my tank, but it always, never failing, slows down over time and stops working or works less?
Well, the better the pump you buy. Like if you go cheap on a pump, it's not going to last as
Right.
long. That's not ironclad because there's some that you pay a lot of money for and they're no good. But generally speaking, it's like anything else. The more you pay for something, the better it's
So
going to
buy
be.
better. I
Uh,
buy better, but I'm
yeah,
just saying in
that's why
general,
I bought Danby.
is there a, go ahead. Sorry.
I bought the Danby aquarium or pond pumps um, mainly because they are extremely dependable. They're extremely quiet and they last forever. And I bought the 100 waters, but they have smaller ones. I'm not sure how small down they go, and you may not need it. But the thing is, if you don't need the kind of sizes that they have, make sure you're you're going to buy one that's got a hell of a good reputation, and don't expect it to be in the cheaper price range.
But no matter what you buy, is there a timeline that
Sooner or
you
later, they're going to wear out.
personally use to say, hey, you know what? I hear it rumbling now, or it's been a year or whatnot, and then you say, I need to check.
I don't know of any that quit after a year or even degrade after a year. I've never purchased any that degraded that fast.
Now,
But
Zen recommended a company. She sent me a link, and I think she mentioned it in our comments.
okay.
Gemco. She says
Okay,
has
well,
been around
I'm
for
gonna
a
say,
long
Shiloh,
time.
Shiloh, we're gonna come back to your comment and talk about gas bubble. But let's see if I can find it. All right, go ahead, Holly.
So it's JEHMCO. So
Oh,
so she says they specialize in that kind of stuff, and they've been around forever. So she says they've been a good company. So that might be one to look into. I've never heard of them.
all right. Well, let's check it out for sure.
She
Oh,
says they're old. So I'll check out the website.
all right. Well, while you're checking that out, Ray, you said you messaged Shyla about the problem. Shyla did say she's got juveniles get released into the tank with their parents for New Year. Woo! But might have a tail bubble situation going on. Ray, what are you talking about with Shyla?
Well, I first of all, I just mentioned to her that that would indicate to me a water quality
Yep.
issue. And she wrote back that she'd had a problem there where it was probably maybe things weren't looked after quite as well as it should be. And then I just explained it might be better to put the Seahorse into a hospital tank, change 50% of the water at least every other day, and try to lower the temperature down to 20 degrees
So
centigrade.
wait. Let's back up. So, what do we mean for anybody new watching when we say a seahorse might have a tail bubble situation going on? What does that mean?
A tail bubble can be either a bacterial issue or it can be an organ issue, but usually in the tail, it's going to be a bacterial problem where there's an infection there and gas is built up underneath there. It's still possible to be an organ problem and happen at the tail, but that's not normal. And again, what we're dealing with is all these problems basically can be attributed to a rising dissolved organic level, DO. And we cannot test for DO. There are no test kits available to a hobbyist to test for
Right.
it.
So,
Uh, and if you send a sample away, it's going to be expensive. And by the time you get the results, it's too late. So if you just automatically put the problem seahorse into a hospital tank with new water, try to lower the temperature slowly down to 20 degrees or 68 Fahrenheit, and change 50% of the water every other day at the minimum, and have appropriate hitching. Um, Sometimes if it's got a bubble, it might be keeping it at the top of the surface, in which case your hitching would have to be such that they can fasten on to the hitching at the surface there. Don't put something that's just at the bottom of the tank to hitch on if they can't get down to it easy.
They're floating.
Um, yeah, usually by getting into that new water, um, it takes time because it took time for this thing to develop. You just didn't see it while it was first developing. So it's going to take time for it to heal again. But in time, it usually will heal up. If it doesn't, it means you're going to, and if it shows signs of getting worse, even with this treatment, it means you're going to have to get an antibacterial drug into the water there. But many places, like here in Canada, you can't do that anymore. I'm not sure what it's like in Taiwan where she is, but it might be that she doesn't have access to drugs also.
sure.
I
But
think she's
once
got
we started having,
antibiotics, she said.
we started when we started doing just the freshwater treatment, it was surprising how successful it was, and it may not have been quite as fast as when you use an antibiotic, but it still did the job.
Gotcha. And Holly, when it comes to tail bubble, when do you use Diamox?
I only use that when they're floating, honestly.
Okay.
And
That's more for an
I
internal.
was telling Shyla that I I've treated a lot of tail bubbles over the years, and I've with Sadie gets them occasionally, and they go away. Like it's a water quality issue, like Ray says. And with her, I don't put her in the hospital tank because I've watched her over the years and how she reacts. So with her, a water change and she's
Helps.
good.
Got it.
It's she'll get fine. She'll be fine within a day or two. I'll see one and it's gone like 2 days later. Like I was telling Shyla and Kelly, you'll remember this because when you came to visit, Sadie was getting a tail bubble at the time. And
Yeah.
because we were gone all the time and the seahorses didn't get fed all the time,
Right. Right.
And I still had them on their water change schedule, but they were getting fed less and stuff, so they didn't have as much, debris going into the
Right.
water. Her tail bubble healed while you were here.
Right. Right.
And, and so I told Shiloh, I said, clean water. And Shiloh's concern was if she uses a hospital tank, she can't keep the water cold enough because her tank is already at 68 degrees.
Hmm.
And if she moved to a hospital tank, the water would actually be warmer than in her
Yep.
display tank.
I get
So
that.
I said, well, do the extra water changes, maybe, cut down on feeding if you can, and see what happens. For if does the tail bubble improve and go away? Or if not, then you might need the antibiotics and the hospital tank
Sure.
and all that. But I do that with Sadie because, like, especially like I was saying, in the summertime, if she gets a tail bubble, it's worse to put her in the hospital than it is to take care of the problem in the display tank because it's not severe. I've had seahorses with a more severe tail bubble issue that
Well,
I
one
had
of the
to
things
treat.
I've
So it's
always,
kind of relative, if they're getting a little one and it's not that bad, but if the skin's breaking, if it, then antibiotics.
well,
But
one of
until
the,
you're used to seeing it, I mean, I got used to seeing it in seahorses, so I'd figure out, okay, that one's probably going to heal on its own. If I step up the water changes, oh, that looks worse. I should put it in a hospital tank. It's hard to
so,
say.
so one of the things that I've always asked every seahorse expert person, whatever, is that if you take the seahorse in the situation and put them in a hospital tank and fix them, you give them clean water or whatever, and yeah, you're doing multiple water changes to the tank, but isn't there still a problem in the tank?
Yeah.
Right.
It takes a bit of time to catch it up, depending on how aggressive you are in order to fix it.
Hmm.
Some people will do a bunch of smaller changes over a period of time. Some will do large changes and still over a period of time. And the larger changes are going to correct things faster than the smaller ones are. So
What do you
um,
mean by
it's
larger
all
changes?
okay. Somebody might maybe they're doing 15% every week or something, so they might up it to 25 or
Gotcha.
30%. Whereas someone that does a couple 90% changes, it's gonna have a faster effect on fixing things than those smaller rates.
Okay, so you base everything on basically doing better water changes or whatnot, getting the water cleaner.
Well, also a lot of people need to look at their husbandry
Hmm.
too, because a lot of people really don't do what I think is best for
Hmm.
seahorses. They don't get into cleaning a lot of stuff that isn't visible. It's it's okay to get the stuff that you can see and get that out, but I don't know of a tank that I've ever had that didn't have crap that I couldn't see, and the only way I could see it was take a power head, blow it around all over the place, and then I'd see the stuff for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. All right. So powerhead, blow it all over the
Well, and
place.
I think
Got it.
you have to take a look at how you got into the situation too to rectify that issue. And like one thing that Shyla said that I didn't realize before is that she just added the juveniles to the tank with their parents. So it may
Mhm.
be that the additional seahorses are overloading her system. So she'll need to make up for that, with bigger water changes and, stronger, whatever it takes to make up for that. Because I remember when I had my juveniles and I didn't have an ideal setup for them, they're growing bigger and bigger in a smaller system. And I didn't have, a huge sump for them or anything like that. I was using hang on back stuff. I started having to do water changes for them every other day. Huge water
Sure.
changes because there was simply too many of them for the space that they had and the equipment I was running. So I think anytime you're adding more seahorses to a system that you already have, you have to account for that additional bioload some way or another.
That's one of the things I said is I think my seahorses knew that Mama wasn't ready for more seahorses. So
One other
they had
problem
me
I
giving
have
me
is when I
babies.
recommend something,
Go
I'm
ahead, Ray.
basically, I think, assuming conditions similar to what I have. And because I don't like heat, I have air conditioning. I have whole
Yeah.
house air
Mhm.
conditioning, and a lot of people do.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I have a niece living in Taiwan, um, and she has air conditioning too.
Mhm.
So I never even think of somebody not having air conditioning.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't really. It's just too expensive to run it here. And I think, well, Shyla, I think she's in Singapore, I believe. And I think it's
Yeah.
like summer
Is she?
there, maybe, isn't it?
Oh,
Or getting to be summer? Are they opposite of us?
But Holly, in your case, you guys figured out how to use a wet vac, whatever you called it, and make air conditioning. I mean, when I came and visited you, it was
Oh
amazing.
yeah, swamp
So I'm
cooler.
sure there's ways
It's
to
a
do it.
swamp cooler.
Swamp cooler,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
There's
There we go.
ways around it. But yeah, where I live to run the HVAC because of the size of my house, and you know how my house is just all over the place and add-ons and
Yep.
it's just not not a good idea.
But you guys figured
Yeah,
it
yeah,
out,
we
is
we
my
make
point.
it
And
comfortable enough, and yeah, and the fish tanks are good. I mean, mostly for me, I can handle heat, but the Seahorse tanks really can't. So I invested in the chillers so I don't have to fight, with their climate.
well,
Yeah,
first of all,
Shyla
Sang
says it's
said,
summer there. That's what I was
wait,
thinking. Yeah.
living in Texas, it always throws me for a loop when I hear about people without it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I live in Indiana and I can't even imagine.
Summer here all
And
year
then
round.
Shyla said it's summer here all year round. Right. And so, you got to figure it out is the
Mhm.
point. Like you got to keep seahorses at a lower temperature. So either you do as Holly did, and Holly, what did you do to fix this?
Oh, are you talking about my air conditioning
Yeah, well, just no.
or the seahorse
Holly doesn't
issue?
need air conditioning because she figured
Yeah.
it out for me when I came to visit
Mhm.
and we had the swamp cooler. But I mean for the seahorses.
Well, I keep a heater and a chiller on each tank year round because
Yeah,
seriously, I'm in in kind of a mountain climate. I'm in Northern California, and our temperatures can sometimes fluctuate 20 to 30 degrees in a day. And so
yep,
I might need the heater in the early morning and the chiller at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I've had them come on both in the same day. And I have them set really at my heater is set to come on, I think around 66 or 67. And so the seahorse tanks are generally kept in the upper 60s pretty much year round. So I keep them
gotcha.
they're usually peaking in the summer. They'll get up to right about 73 on our hottest days. And then I'm panicking because I'm like, oh God, they're going to hit 74.
Sure.
What if the chiller fails? You know, da da da. They get close because I have it set to that to kind of save electricity so they're not on like all the time, trying to keep it 68
Yep.
or whatever. So I do let the tanks get warmer in the summer and colder in the winter just because of our climate. But the seahorses seem to do really well in that upper 60s range. They don't need the 70s, I found, to be
Yeah.
healthy and happy. They can be at
Well, and
68,
there are
67.
tricks you can use with temperature if you're trying to
Mhm.
breed. But if you're not trying to breed, everything
Mhm.
Ellie's saying is correct. And I will tell you guys, when I went to visit Holly, I literally went on a mountain
Mhm.
with her and literally held snow
Mhm.
in my hand when the sun was beaming
Mhm.
down on me. Like
It
it
was
was
in
insane. The
July, right?
temperatures there
Or
are,
August,
yeah, yeah,
July
yeah.
when you came to visit.
It
But you
was,
still may not
yeah, I
need a
think.
heater in wintertime. For me, uh, I
Mhm.
Okay.
in the wintertime, my furnace is programmed to
Hmm.
shut down at midnight and come on when it gets to 15 degrees, which is 59 Fahrenheit. And it
Mhm.
stays that way until
Hmm.
noon the next day. That way it's cold for when I have to do my walking on my treadmill. I can't stand walking in heat.
Mhm.
And I never heated the Seahorse tanks, and I've been doing this for years. And so they were
Now,
putting up.
I might
Yeah.
not. You might be right, Ray, because I
It,
don't know what low temperature they're comfortable at.
yeah,
It
well,
might be
I never
that they're
bothered
okay
measuring.
all the way down to 60.
It would the water would never get down that cold. Uh, I know
Right.
that because just basically the house, uh, the ambient
Never
temperature is
got
not
that
going
cold.
to let.
Right.
It's not there long enough to get that water volume down to the same
See,
temperature as what the room
right.
is.
I'm right
Mhm.
there with you.
Well, mine might.
Only that I literally use central air.
Mhm.
That's it. My central air controls my tanks.
Mhm.
And, there have been failures, there have been this, that, and the other. But the bottom line is, there's never been a situation where the timing of whatever failure there was long
To
enough
chill their
to let
water.
the tank drop or raise
Mhm.
high enough to make a difference. Like, so I haven't needed any of that
Mhm.
equipment. I think it just depends on where you live.
Yeah. I mean, if we don't keep our fire going, it will get real cold in the house. We'll get in the 50s, but we generally don't let it get below like 58. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what temperature, as far as the lowest lows, where the seahorses will be happy at that temperature. Like, will they do well at 63? Will they do well at 6? When I do my water changes, it drops a couple degrees because the water's cold. So they'll go down to like 66 ish. And I can't tell a
Mhm.
difference as far as they don't act like they don't like it or they're cold. So I don't know.
Well, I personally think if you're not trying to breed,
Mhm.
like again, there's differences if you're trying to breed because temperature plays a
Mhm.
part. I think in just keeping seahorses, the key is not to let anything drastic
Mhm.
happen, right? So
Big temperature
don't let
swing.
the temperature spike or, go way down. But I mean, Ray, what's your thoughts?
Well, being that I was um, raising seahorse fry for a lot of years, and they put up with my temperature difference. I never heated any fry tanks either.
No, no, no. I was saying heat for like
Well, the
enticing
parents were producing fry
breeding.
without any change.
So
I
even
know.
at
You're
low
just
temperatures,
amazing and
yours
great.
were producing at low temperatures.
But the thing is, while I was having seahorses produce fry, I've had lots of seahorses that didn't produce any.
Right. I was merely I shouldn't have said anything. I was just saying that that's one of the tricks. If they're not giving you fry, you can play with the temperature to make them give you fry. But
It may
go back to
you
what you
can
were
play
saying.
with it all you want, and you may not be successful, but you might. So it's worth trying.
Right. Right.
Now,
Right.
I will say the parents of my fry, I didn't have chillers yet. When I had those seahorses, the ones that produced the fry, their tank temperatures could get pretty high. But you
I'm not
have
at
to
all saying.
remember though too at the same time, I lost my male when he was pretty young
Yeah.
to bacterial infections.
Right. So I will say that my first seahorse tank, I literally didn't have a chiller, didn't have a heater, didn't have anything like that. And my seahorses started producing right off the bat, right? They just started having fry. So I don't think there's a rhyme or
Yeah.
reason. I shouldn't have said anything when I brought up temperature in relation to
But
seahorses
I've
having
heard
fry.
that too.
I was just talking about when you want them to have fry, you can raise the
Hmm.
temperature. That's it.
I've heard that
But
too.
let's go back to right. But let's go back to just people keeping seahorses and whether it's that important to control the temperature in the tank and how and why we do it. So, I mean, Holly, you've talked about how you
Hmm.
do it. Ray, you said you just
Yep.
use your house,
Hmm.
but did it ever get above a certain degrees that you were like, oh, wait, there's a problem?
Back before I had seahorses, it did, and it fried a lot of my reef tanks. But I went away on holidays. The air conditioning was set, and the woman that was looking after things, when she come in here, for some reason, she didn't realize the air conditioning wasn't working. Never did
Oh,
anything
shit.
about it. Other than that, no. The air conditioning takes care of it, and then all the raising of the fry was done in the basement, and the basement never gets hot. I've never had the basement get over 70 degrees.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, Holly doesn't
like that.
understand.
I like
Right.
it. That's some nice temperature right there.
So Ray,
I've seen my house get close to 90.
Uh,
and I
the house
felt it.
here,
No,
And
but
Kelly
Ray,
was here at that time.
I could get over 90 if
so
I didn't have air.
right. You
Yeah.
have air conditioning. But if you were telling someone that was trying to set up a seahorse tank and needed to decide whether they needed heater, chiller, all these equipment pieces that I don't use any of them because my climate and my house, I can control it.
Hmm.
In Holly's, she can't.
Hmm.
So she has to have those pieces of equipment. What would you say the temperature ranges would be for a seahorse tank?
Well, for most of them, I basically advise people 68 to 74, but they can
Okay.
handle lower and they can handle higher too.
Yes.
But if you're going to have them in higher, it involves a whole new set of parameters that you're going to have to take care of. Like you're going to have to be even cleaner, and with the husbandry, you're going to have to do more water changes just to keep that DO level down because the pathogen
Yep.
explosion is so much faster. It's not a linear. Um what's the word I want? It's not a linear expansion. It's oh, I can't think of the word now. Just looking at a curve, linear would be going on a straight line up, but this, you go, the further the temperature goes up, the faster the rate, of the extension of the,
Yep.
and
Mhm,
my mind won't pull that word out right now.
mhm,
It's all good, Ray. You're still making your point, and
mhm.
it's a good point. And that's the thing is that yeah, the temperature does matter,
Mhm.
but it's based on the quality of care that you're giving to the
Yep.
tank, right? Like you can people
Yeah.
many people want to do seahorses in a reef tank. And we talk about, well, the reason that's not good is because there's stinging corals, there's fast moving fish that stress them out. Seahorses are more susceptible to disease. And then when you raise the temperature, which you usually do for coral,
Mhm.
then the seahorses, the bacteria in the water and the bacteria that's attacking
Yeah.
them, they can't handle it. So seahorses just do better at lower temperatures, right? But it's not like if you have a seahorse only tank, you have to buy a chiller so that it's
Mhm,
at 60
mhm,
degrees.
mhm,
You can make it work, right?
mhm. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they're fine with the higher temperatures as far as how they feel.
Yeah.
It's the bacterial growth
Yeah.
that's the problem. So
Yeah.
if you have another way to fight that, like if you're doing massive water changes instead of having a chiller or whatever, that could
Right.
be your solution to
Right.
that.
Right.
I had one that I was selling
Exactly.
seahorses to, and she was using uh, very high powered skimmers, but she also had reactors set up using carbon in it at the same time. So she was able to keep
Yeah.
the DO levels down better than someone on average. If you just had a skimmer or if you just had a carbon reactor, then that's probably, well, that's even more than what a lot of people have to begin with. A lot of people don't have either of them. But if you have one or the
Right.
other, that puts your care level at a different plateau. But if you have two of them, again, that plateau rises even more. So,
Well, that's what we've always talked about
yeah,
is listen, most of us here are
yeah.
lazy, not Ray,
Mhm.
but me, I'm lazy.
Well, I don't
And
think there's anyone
I'm
lazier
going
than I am.
to
I do more work at getting
well,
out of work than I do if I do the work itself.
well, some of us don't have the knowledge and know-how to make these massive skimmers that are outside the tank and all that. So, but I'm just saying, we can share the rules that, yeah, if you just want to set up a basic tank, you don't want to have to deal with a sump and a skimmer and all this stuff. We can tell you how to do it, but you're going to have to keep the temperature low, do massive water changes, that kind of thing. If once you get used to keeping seahorses, then you can play with doing it a different way, right? There are different ways to do it for sure. But it involves keeping the water clean. So whether
Mhm.
you're using skimmers and K1 reactors and different, carbon reactors, you can make it happen. You just gotta
Some people
you
also
get
just
you gotta
plain lock in.
understand what they need first.
They do. There's some
What?
people that just plain lock in. They have elevated temperatures and they're
Yeah,
not doing anything more than anybody else. But there are seahorses
Mhm.
that, like
they
people,
can
they're
handle.
just, they can absorb the problem so much
They're
easier. Their
badasses.
bodies just aren't capable of
Yep.
handling it. So the
But they
parasites and
they
the
don't they
bacteria
don't do it
loads,
for
as they
long.
increase, they have an immune system there that is fighting it off and is able to handle it. But the number of seahorses
Yes.
that are able to do that is pretty slim. I don't have any measurement, but it's my belief that
Mhm.
if the seahorses are in a range of 1 to 10, you might have 5% that are up at the 10 range, and if at the 7, 8, 9, you might have another 5 or 10%, and you get a lot that are down at the 1 level. Most of them probably running at that 2 to 5 level. With
Well, and I don't think it's long term. If you don't set up properly or figure out how to do it properly, you're not going to be successful with seahorses. That's my personal.
Well, I have
That's
seen
it.
people
You know.
do it long term, defying everything that I believe in. And
Yeah.
the only thing that's coming down to is the capability of those individual seahorses to withstand it. But
Yeah.
the problem is there are people
Sure.
that set up like that. Some of their seahorses survive and some don't. Well, the ones that don't
Mhm.
weren't able to handle it. The other ones were able to.
Mhm.
Sure. And
And
I
I
get it.
totally believe that because I've seen that with my own seahorses. You know, and that's like, for instance, like Sadie, she can get a tail bubble and it'll be gone in a few days.
Well, and
Most of
that's
my other seahorses, you know, if they got a tail bubble, it was a big fight to cure them and treat them, and most of them didn't make it. You know, so I would say Sadie's immune system is stronger than my other seahorses were. And then look at Dandy, who's almost 6 years old, that has outlived all kinds of problems and things in the tank that I lost other seahorses to. And he's been handicapped pretty much this whole time. You know,
wow.
but something about him, he outlives everybody despite whatever problems he has. So, you know, they're all individuals. I think, like Ray says, they all have different abilities of fighting off different, you know, diseases or problems, and some are going to survive things that others wouldn't.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the chat as we're talking.
Ah,
Um, yeah. And Shyla said the juvenile or fry that I raised from the parents' tank in a hob breeder
Hang on.
box.
yeah, remember
Holy
she
crap.
had him in a
Yes, I
box
do
in the
now.
same tank. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did well. So I'm really curious, and we don't have to do it right now, guys, but I know you're concerned with a tail bubble situation. I'm curious what that means. Like who has it, what's going on, how many? Um
It's just
Holly,
Howell, just the one.
okay, thank you, Holly, because I can't read it all while I'm doing this. So just one, is it a bred seahorse or a
It's
parent?
one of the
Yeah, it's
fries.
one of the parents of the juveniles, I think.
All right.
Because
Thoughts,
I
Ray?
think she just started with two. I think she just had the two. So I think
Okay.
it's one of the parents of the juveniles.
Okay.
It's the male.
Gotcha. Any thoughts, Ray?
Uh, well, beyond what I've already told her, but I didn't. I
Yeah,
didn't
no.
think about her not having air conditioning.
Ah, gotcha.
But it's still.
And
So,
I've been able to keep, it's a lot of work, but I've been able to keep hospital and fry tank temperatures down using like ice packs and fans and stuff like that. It's a lot of work. It's hard, but it can be
Maybe she
done.
could put it in
Uh,
that hang on box breeder box, but don't turn it on, and then just change the water in it maybe twice a day. And she's taking the how do I say it? She would have to put the breeder box instead of hanging on the back, hang it on the inside of the tank. Okay, so that the water that you're putting in that breeder box, you're changing it all the time, but it's being kept the same temperature as what the tank water is. It's only for the duration of the treatment. It's not like a permanent thing.
mhm,
oh, gotcha. Okay.
You
All
follow
right.
what I mean?
Okay. I
mhm,
kinda.
Hang on the back breeder
mhm.
box. It it's actually sitting right on the usually on the back of the tank, and it's like a filter. The one that I have, it's got a little pump and motor and everything, and
Mhm.
pumps the water back in, and it takes it up just like a hang-on back filter does. Uh,
So you can keep it in the tank, but give it its own water, not the
yeah,
tank water. So you're keeping the temperature of the tank, but it's running clean water of its own, not the tank
but
water. Is that
he's
what you're
talking
saying?
about these ones that hang a hang-on back that hangs inside the tank. That means it's probably a mesh situation.
It and it's
Easiest
using
way
the
about
same
that is
water.
to put that whole thing in a watertight plastic bag and immerse it in the tank with the water in there, and that'll hold it in, and there'll be no exchange of water because it'll be
Mhm.
captured by the plastic bag that surrounds it. So you have to be judicious in the size of the bag to use, and you have to make sure it's going to be fastened so it's not going to fall off and
Mhm.
the water's going to end up mixing. But it's something that it's a relatively simple thing to do.
Gotcha.
Now, how would you say though, because here's another thing I always keep in mind when I'm deciding about whether to use a hospital tank or things like that, is the stress that it puts on the seahorse, to be in that environment.
The only thing that I find
Like
really
how do
stresses
you
the
take
seahorse
that?
a lot are other critters that are in the tank sometimes, but something that I physically
Mhm,
have done that stresses them. The only thing I've seen that's excessive is freshwater dips. I've never seen a seahorse.
mhm,
No, I disagree. I disagree, and I agree with Holly here. When you put a seahorse in a hospital tank, unless it's unless they have someone else in the tank with them, meaning another seahorse that's sick,
mhm,
or unless you set up the tank like it's not the bare minimum, they get
mhm.
stressed out.
Well, I've got about 21 years of
Like,
doing it my way. It's not a problem. So the thing is, you have to do things the way that you feel is best. And if my way, if you feel it's going to stress them, do it your way.
No, no, no. Time out. I'm not saying my way, your way. I'm saying how many successful times have you treated a seahorse in a hospital tank and then come back to the tank and been fine?
Then they're what?
How many times have you treated a seahorse in a hospital tank and then brought them back to the tank and then everything was great?
Well, lots of times.
Tons,
Well, I
right?
don't know. Like in 21 years, I'm not counting in all those years, that's for sure.
But that's the method that
Yeah, it
worked for
works for
you.
me. And but the thing is,
Okay.
if someone feels that what I suggest is going to be problematic for them, they know their tank, they know their seahorses, so
Sure.
they have to make their own decisions on what to do. And if they feel that their particular seahorse can be stressed out, then do something different. Uh, I can't
Sure.
recommend
No,
something though
all I was
that basically I haven't done and that I don't feel is necessary. But in your case, there, if you feel it's necessary and you want to try it in the tank like Kelly was doing, then go for it. But just be prepared if it doesn't work. Like she was saying, that seahorse with that tail bubble, it happens quite often and it heals quite easy. She's had others that didn't heal that
mhm,
way. And
mhm.
so
oh,
you have to
right.
be cognizant of that. And most of them with this problem, in my opinion, are not going to be healed just by leaving them in that tank and changing the
Yeah.
water. That's most, but
No,
I
I
can't
agree.
tell you that there aren't some that will accept that. Well, and Holly's seahorse is proof of that.
Those that
Do you
don't.
have, I would say, do you have a picture? Can you take a picture of the tail bubble and so we can see it?
That'd be good. And
Another thing I
also,
watch for is behavior. Like if they're acting like it's really bothering them, or definitely if they stop eating or things like, then I think it's time to break out the antibiotics, is how I feel about it. Um, it's
I
it's all
also
kind of
wanted to ask,
individual
yep, and I
based on
also
the
wanted to ask
seahorse.
Ray, like, how do you set up your hospital tank? Because that's a key thing I think
Mhm,
matters is that
mhm,
if they're in a comfortable situation, that
mhm,
it matters, right?
mhm.
Like if you like how do you set up your hospital tank?
Who, for me?
Yeah.
It's always sitting there and it's empty, but I put the water in it, and I have airlines that run all over the place, and I'll just run two airlines to the tank with open end uh, rigid pieces that I put in the end of the flexible airline, and the rigid pieces stick down in, and they're open ended, so I got large bubbles instead of small bubbles, and that takes care of water movement
Mhm.
and the aeration. I put in artificial hitching only. I go bare bottom, and uh, most times,
But you give them hitching, you give them
yeah.
go ahead.
And if well, usually I'm doing this in the basement anyway, so the water's going to be down 68 degrees anyway, so I don't have to worry about lowering the temperature. But if I did it upstairs, then I would try to find a way to get the temperature down. Um, I
Do
also,
you keep it covered so they can't see out? Or how do you feel about
I've
that?
never bothered about that myself, never even thought about it. But for me, it's important that when I add pieces of food, I count how many pieces I put in, and I make sure I'm only putting in
Mm,
whole pieces. And then after a period of time, I count to see how many pieces are left. And this is to be
to
sure
tell if they're
if they are
right.
eating, that's going to tell me that, but it's also going to tell me how much they're eating. And that's important because
Mhm.
they may have been eating when you put them in there, but if they shut down and you're putting food in there and not paying any attention to it, you're not going to notice. But if you count those pieces before and after, then sometimes you may save yourself some grief.
So what do you do if a seahorse stops eating in a hospital tank because of the medication?
Then that's when you tube feed.
Oof, no. Okay,
Well, I
go
don't
on.
mind if they go for a couple days without eating. If they go more than a couple days, then I'm going to tube feed because, in my experience, I think around the fourth day is about the maximum that they will start eating again. If they've gone more than 4 days, I personally haven't had success in getting them to eat again, but I have heard of others. And I think Kelly had mentioned one time that she had some that went longer.
Mine have gone way
Just
longer, eating
yes, and then started
intermittently.
eating. Right,
But
right.
I've one thing I've noticed with most of my seahorses, ones that fully recovered and ones that didn't, most of them do not want to eat in the hospital tank at all. Uh, okay, here's a picture from Shyla.
Yeah,
Are you
I
sharing
can't
it
tell
where
from
I
that.
can share it? Hang on, share it so I can share it live.
Well, it's on my phone, so let me.
I've got it on the computer here, but I'm trying to figure out how to make it large enough to
Hang
see.
on, it's
Is it
on Facebook. It's on
Yeah, it's
Facebook.
on our member chat.
All right,
Yeah, on Messenger.
give
But
me
I'm
two
using it on
seconds.
my phone, so I can't put it
yeah, it
on
needs
the.
to be
I got it.
needs
Hang
to
on, here
lighten
we
up the
go.
picture and make it larger.
Calm down. Hang on. Oh, I see. Okay, hang on. Let me try to share. All right.
Is there some way that I can make this larger in Messenger?
So we're talking about this right here.
Mhm. It does look pretty good size to me, and it's higher up the tail.
So what bothers me is every time I've seen a seahorse with a tail bubble, it's almost like clear. It looks like a bubble. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Or am
but
I
this is from the back side, looks like, though.
okay?
So it might be more whitish on the other side of it. Like if you were to see it from the underneath of the seahorse, because in this picture, it shows the tail's bigger because of that bubble, but you can't see the bubble itself. And what the thing that concerns me from looking at tail bubbles, from experience with the ones I've dealt with, is when it's a bigger size and higher up the tail. It's more of a problem in my experience of what I've dealt with.
Higher
So
up the
in
tail,
this
meaning
state,
closer to the body.
I would, yeah, closer to the body that it is instead of the
Okay.
tip of the tail,
Yep. Yep.
and the size of it, that it actually sticks, it makes the tail look bigger.
Mhm.
There's enough swelling there to me that I would choose to treat it.
Okay.
Like when Sadie gets hers, they're never that big and they're way down near the
Tip of the
tip of
tail.
the tail.
Mhm.
And they, like I said, those ones will come and go. But whenever I've seen my seahorses that got them higher up the tail or a bigger size, it's been a problem.
Okay.
So if this was my seahorse,
Mhm.
I would choose to treat it.
Okay.
And dealing with antibiotics, I don't know that I would start antibiotics right away. If the seahorse is behaving normally and eating normally, I might just go with the clean water for a few days and
So
see
so
what
wait.
happens.
Let's take this slow. So you're saying you see this problem, it's obviously bacterial. Your first piece of advice is do a massive water change, right?
Yes, or put the seahorse in a hospital tank with clean water.
Okay. But either
And
way,
even
give the
if
seahorse really clean water. Okay.
I mean, like I said, even if water's warm, the warm temperatures don't hurt the seahorse. It's the bacterial growth.
Right. So if it's new
So if
water,
you're doing
right.
100% water changes
Right.
every day and even using the water change as a way to lower the water temperature, because you're in a small tank. Like if you're doing a 10-gallon and you use, colder water, you can run your water. I think it's a 4-degree sway. That's what
Mhm.
my rule I use with my seahorses. So if I have the seahorses in a 70-degree water, let's say I'm comfortable lowering their water temperature to around 67, 66 without
Gotcha.
it affecting them. So you
Mhm.
can take advantage of the water changes to keep that tank cooler. Do maybe one or two water changes a day. You can do 100%. It's not a lot of water volume. So if you have the salt supply and you could do that, you could, and the time, because it is labor intensive, but you
So if
could run
you
a hospital tank that way, taking advantage of the water changes to keep the water cool.
Yep. So if you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to medicate, what medications would you advise?
I think she has the right ones. I think she said she has nitrofurazone or something.
Yep. Nitrofurazone and what else? Canaplex, maybe?
So I used what's available. And for me, I want to say I used a combination of Canaplex and Metroplex, something with an M.
Yeah.
It's been
See,
years since I used antibiotics, but my
I was
favorite
gonna
was
say,
Huron 2, and I can't get it anymore. So
right.
it was the generic of that.
That's what sucks. Is literally I have a video about this, but I stopped saying when we're live, go watch my video because you can't get the medications anymore. I used Furon 2 and um triple sulflex. No, triple sulfa. Excuse me. But yeah, so you can't even get those medications anymore. So I don't know. I think we have to go back
I
to what
know
Ray's
she
thing
mentioned to me
is
what
clean
she
water.
has. Yeah, because we were talking about it over between Christmas and New Year's time. I was talking to her about it, and I think she mentioned to me what she had, and it sounded fine to me. But
Well, I see she's saying, do I
is she
treat them with nitrofurazone and kanamycin? But here's my
kanamycin or?
question, Holly.
Hmm.
When does the when does wh- when do you which or God, when do you use each medication? For instance, when does treating just the symptom matter versus treating like the bacterial problem? So um I can't
I
remember
always
the
used a combination, and it was because that was what everyone recommended to use, honestly.
okay.
Um, because they treat a spread of different things.
Hmm.
The main thing about antibiotic treatment that I remember is you have to do it for a 10-day minimum.
Yes.
Once you start, you have to continue for 10 days because otherwise you're running the risk of developing pathogens that are antibiotic resistant. So
Hmm.
the treatment might not work next time. So if you decide to go with an antibiotic, do it for 10 days minimum. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why I like to go with clean water
Yes.
exclusively for a few
Yes.
days just to see what happens. Because once I start the antibiotics, I'm locked in for like 2 weeks. And
Yep.
that's a lot of work. It's a lot of salt. It's a lot of antibiotics. And so I like to start with the clean water thing. Now the nitrofurazone is really good for that, to my knowledge. Why wouldn't you use it alone? Like it would it be effective alone? I mean, what do you guys think? What's the
So
because I don't really know the difference. I've always been told to use the two together.
So it's about gram positive, gram negative. I can't answer your question because I'm not,
Mhm.
again, just like you, I was told use them in
Yeah.
combination.
Mhm.
So I really don't have an answer. Zen could probably help us with that because she's really good about that stuff. But
Mhm.
basically, it's about which bacteria it can
Uh,
attack or kill. Um, but my question to you now would be, when does the Diamox come into play when it comes to
I
this trouble?
well, I've been told you can use it as soon as there's a tail bubble situation or anything like that. Like it'll reduce that. Now, personally, I never used it for that. I used it only when the seahorses were floating when they had trouble with buoyancy,
Okay.
because to me the Diamox is like a resource that I don't want to just use it. It's hard to get sometimes for some people.
And it's not it's not curing the
It's
problem. It's
no, it's treating the symptom really.
okay.
And to me, if the seahorse is not having trouble swimming and not floating, you know how they get floaty when they have the gas bubble disease, like internally, which I had problems with. To me, it's not necessary unless you have that going on.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Especially when I only have generally so many tablets to use. And you can get results from just the antibiotic
And
alone.
or clean water,
It's the
right?
antibiotic that's treating the bacterial. Yeah. So to me, it's like using the Diamox is like taking a Tylenol when you're in
Yeah.
pain.
Gotcha.
You're not fixing the reason you're in pain, but you're getting rid of the pain. To me, Diamox, it gets rid of the floating, but it's not really treating them for the problem that they have that's causing the
Gotcha.
floating.
Ray, your thoughts?
That makes sense.
Oh, you got me there. On the medication, I would just do the kanamycin.
Okay, why?
I guess because it's what I have experience with.
Gotcha.
Most of my
Mhm.
experience is with the old standby something two. See, I've used kanamycin, but it wasn't my main one, and I can't think of the standard one.
So, sorry guys, I'm trying to do 5 things at once as always. I am still here always. Hi, here I
I
am.
edited that picture. I edited the picture just for that spot on the tail gnat, but it didn't turn out once I got it through and put it on Messenger. So
So, the only reason I was saying that is because I remember Dan saying there was a difference if the bubble
Furan
was.
too.
Yeah, furan too. So
Is
nitrofurazone
Furan too.
is the
Right, right.
Yeah,
generic of that. It is furan too.
But I remember Dan saying there was a big difference if the bubble was clear and looked like a bubble or if it was like just looked like a bump in the skin. And I don't honestly, unfortunately, remember the difference.
I
But I
never saw
think,
them go clear unless I've been there for quite a bit. Like it'd be 4 or 5 days anyway before it went clear. And but the thing is, I've treated both the same with like to be honest with you, I've never ever used Diamox for a tail bubble,
gotcha.
not once.
Perfect. Okay.
For me, it
Hmm.
was always that. Yeah, now I forgot all.
Nitrofurazone or Furon 2.
Yeah, the Furon 2,
Hmm.
I've always used that.
Hmm.
Um, and when I couldn't get that anymore, that's when I used the kanamycin.
Or Canaplex. Right, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And did you at times also just use fresh water, right?
Well, the very last one, yes, because then I couldn't even get the kanamycin.
Right. So we've already talked about how it can depend on the seahorse's immune system, just like all of us. We have different immune systems.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm saying, Shyla, do some massive water changes. That's what I'm saying at this point.
Hmm.
Like, do some massive
Hmm.
water changes, give them clean water.
That could make the
Yeah,
difference.
I really feel like
And if he's eating and hitching right
Yeah.
now, then yeah, it might be a point where you can turn it around.
And I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen.
Like I said, like I said, Sadie gets them now and then. And the thing is, at her age, and I know I've talked to Kelly about this
I'm here.
before, my seahorses are over half their lifespan, I figure right
Absolutely.
now. So I'm not of the mindset that I'm going to treat every little thing that happens with them, because really they've had a good life, and I I want them to have quality of life.
Yeah.
I've not had much success with seahorses in the hospital tank. I'll say that. I can tell when I put them in there, they're depressed. They literally look like they're sulking. Most of mine wouldn't eat in the hospital tank when they were in there. And I've had ones that I treated and came out of the hospital tank and went home, but I had a greater percentage of hospital tank patients not make it than that did make it.
So
So just at this point of where I'm at with the seahorses, because of their age, like I said, and how long I've been keeping them, I'm really reluctant to start a hospital tank unless I see somebody with a major
sure, sure.
problem.
And that's why I was saying, Shyla, first step is clean up the water. And that's not an insult to
Hmm.
you. Listen, I've got a
Hmm.
situation going on here, so I'm right there with you, right? I've got a seahorse that has an enlarged eyeball that I'm trying to deal with.
I've had
Yep.
that.
So I'm just saying, nothing against you, just in my case, for me, I know
Hmm.
I haven't been doing enough for the tank because I've been busy at work. So I'm going to do more for the tank. I'm going to clean up the water. I'm going to do more bigger water changes, clean up the water, clean the socks, clean the skimmer, clean everything, try to see if that helps. If it doesn't, if I do set up a hospital tank, one thing that I would say is I agree with Holly. So
Hmm.
the hospital tank, no, wait,
Now, in that
hang on, let me
case,
finish. The hospital tank is necessary. And if you have a seahorse that has a problem, what Dan always said, what Ray says, what Cheryl always said is pull them out and treat them because they can affect the other seahorses. And that is absolutely true. But I want to look into us talking about making hospital tanks more hospitable, right? Because
hmm,
usually we say, "Oh, just
hmm,
throw them in a bucket, put an airline in, put a hitch, you know,
hmm,
whatever," and then they don't eat. They're depressed. They don't like it, and it doesn't. I've had success, but in my success, I had
hmm.
three seahorses in a hospital tank, right?
I've had multiples
And
too.
when they have company, at least, then it kind of works better
Hmm.
because at least they have each
Yeah.
other and they have company. If you stick one seahorse in
Hmm.
a hospital tank, I'm with Holly. I haven't had much luck.
It's hard on them.
Ray, go ahead and argue with us.
I just want to get to something that you said there a while ago. Said uh, my saying was, "If in doubt, take it out." But
Yes.
it's not because they that if infected one is going to cause the others to get it. I want it out so it's in cleaner water right off the bat. If you're going to do water changes on that hospital tank, it's not going to be as clean because you're not doing 100%, and it's not going to
Hmm.
be as fast. But the thing is, that seahorse that has the problem is not infecting the other seahorses. It's the water in that tank that you take them out of that's going to affect the seahorses. That is why you have to do something about it as well as taking that seahorse out.
Right. Well, that's my problem though, is people always say, put it in a hospital tank, give it really clean water, fix it, and then put it back in the original tank. And I'm like, no,
Yeah, but not,
we gotta
you
fix
have
the
to,
original
you have to
tank.
do both things.
So yeah,
You have to
okay.
fix the
Mhm.
original cause of it as well as treat the seahorse.
So
If
if you
it's
see,
a minor thing and you want to try doing it just by changing the water in the display tank and doing maybe several changes, large ones, and hope that it doesn't get worse in that time, just be very watchful of the problem
sure,
because if it's getting any worse at all, then bango, out it comes.
right. So
Unless you don't want it.
at the point in my seahorse keeping history, whatever, however you want to say it, I only put a seahorse in the hospital tank if I'm going to treat it, right? If I see a seahorse with a problem, then I'm going to massively clean the display tank and massively change my filtration method. You guys know, for me personally, I was overcrowding my tank. I knew it, I knew I was leading to trouble, so I knew there would be consequences. And now I'm dealing with them. But for anyone else, if you set up and you have two seahorses in a big enough tank, and all of a sudden there's a problem, I would advise massively looking at your filtration, your tank, your water change schedule, etc. I'm not saying don't pull them and treat them in a hospital tank, because that might be needed. But I just think it's never made sense to me that you pull them, treat them, and you put them right back into the same situation. You know, you don't want to argue with me, Ray?
Oh, sorry, I was looking at a
Oh,
post that Shiva sent me with Furon Plus.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just looking at that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, but it's got to be better than nothing, that's for sure.
sure.
I
Yeah, it says it contains nitrofurazone as the active agent.
I don't know what the plus part is. That's what.
And I'm
Yeah.
trying to
It says
go ahead.
it's got both gram negative and it's for treatment against both gram negative and positive bacterial infections. It contains nitrofurazone as active agent, which is effective and fast acting. And it looks like it treats all that type of
Well, we
thing.
don't
So,
have to worry
yeah.
because as long as it covers negative, that's all we are concerned about with seahorses.
Right. And Ray, why is that? Because I can never remember why gram negative, gram positive matters.
If I had an answer for you, I would tell you, but it just happens to be that the bacteria that infects seahorses has always been
Gram
gram
ne-
negative. Anytime anybody
This,
did pathology
okay.
testing, that's what it always has been, and I
Okay.
don't know why.
Huh.
Gotcha. So look for medications that can treat gram negative. And
Yeah.
Shyla, I was not saying don't treat the seahorse. That's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to give an overall
Hmm.
for anyone watching the channel later that's like, wait a minute, the second I see something wrong, do I need to do this, that or the other? And my answer is, look at why you have a problem. In your case, you've got all these adolescent seahorses and you've got all this stuff going on, and you're doing this tremendous job with seahorses, and of course you're going to run into problems. So I'm not saying at
Hmm.
all don't pull the seahorse and treat it, because he probably needs to be treated. I couldn't tell by the picture, but it sounds like you found a good medication to treat the seahorse.
Hmm.
And I would just say, how do
If
you
she's going
guys?
to, if she's going to treat it though, she's going to have to take into account the size of this breeder box and the volume of water. She's going to have to measure out how much goes in it, and then divide the medication with respect to how it's going in. It's measured for usually for a 10-gallon dosage. and she's going to
That's
have to be pretty good with her math to make sure she's not getting it overdone.
truth.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what do you do, Ray, by the way, if the seahorse doesn't eat when it's in a hospital tank and being medicated?
Well, like I said, I don't
Tube
mind for a
feed?
couple. I don't mind for a couple of days. If it goes more than that, then I tube feed.
Yeah. Holly, what do you do?
I've never tube fed a seahorse. I tried once. I couldn't do it. And honestly, I've had them go for a few weeks without eating and then start
And
eating
be
again.
fine.
So when they're in the hospital tank, if they don't want to eat and they're being treated, I don't feed them. And I just let them go through the treatment. Usually with the Diamox, they won't want to eat, and
Literally.
that can
Right.
be like 5
Right.
days. And I just give them the Diamox and don't even try to feed them. And then at the end, I'll check and see if they'll eat again. But most of my seahorses would eat after their treatment, even if they went long time without eating.
Go ahead, Ray.
The ones
Most people,
that made it through.
most people that have trouble with the feeding, it is a little bit difficult to get by the trigger sometimes, but it can be done. But most people don't have a cannula, that is the tube you're putting in. It's not long enough to
Mhm.
get by the gills, and that's because all the standard ones that you can buy basically are too short. Um, Dan special ordered some longer ones, and he was selling those. But if you know he's not available for that now, and even back then, I actually special ordered for myself, and then for some of the people that I was selling to as well. Mainly for that reason that if you go to a drugstore or a place that's supplying cannula for other purposes, um, the average one that they're stocking is just not long enough. And
Well, the
with my
other thing
memory now,
is, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, with my memory now, I don't remember the exact length that I had now, but I believe what I had to get was about 4 millimeters longer than the standard one. That's
And I hear you, but like for me, I just
That wasn't the issue.
it wasn't the issue that it wasn't working. It's that I don't want to do it. It's awful.
It was hard. I couldn't get
Yeah.
I couldn't get it in the seahorse's mouth, and he felt horrible and I felt horrible. I'm like, I can't do this to
So
you.
I mean,
the
like,
other thing is
That's
a
the
lot of
problem
people
I
don't mush up the food enough to get it through that cannula.
right, right. There's all these little things that matter, and I mean, if you're a commercial breeder like Dan or Ray, kind of almost was, or if you're someone that is doing this on a large scale and numbers matter more than Sadie, right? Like if you don't, I'm not saying
Mhm.
that anybody doesn't care about their seahorses. I'm just saying, yes, that's the answer
Well,
for
I think it's a
someone.
matter of learning how to handle them. If you deal with a lot of seahorses and you get used to
Yeah,
handling them and doing
right,
those
exactly,
things, it's probably becomes easier
right.
than for someone like me. I did pouch
Yes, thank you.
evacuations,
Yes,
and I had a hard time with
yes.
that.
It's yeah.
And and so yeah,
Me and
it's
Holly are mushy
if
wushy women, okay? We name
I'm
our
like,
seahorses,
yeah.
and doing a pouch evacuation was awful for me too, because it's like, oh my god, am I hurting him? Right?
Yeah, it's an emotional
Yes.
experience. It's not just a matter of doing it. It's what it takes for you
So
to
I
do
guess the
this,
answer
you
is
know,
the listen to Ray.
and
Listen to Ray, because Ray's right. But
yeah.
So
also,
I'm
if you
right
don't
based
like it
on
and
my
can't
If
do
you
it,
experiences,
can do it and
wait,
you're
but other
if you
people
don't,
comfortable
proceed
doing
guys,
it,
another way.
we're all
do.
talking. Hang on. If you don't like it, can't do it, understand that me and Holly are with you and we'll help you
You're not
figure it
alone.
out. And, we'll figure out another way. Go ahead, Ray.
Shyla was mentioning a thorough cleaning of the tank.
Okay.
I'm assuming, and she's meaning in cleaning the tank, she's also going to do a major water change with it. But if not,
Yes.
then she should be aware of that.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm trying to look at everything that's being said. Sorry. Shyla, get with us on the side. If you're not in the Wine Wednesday um, chat, get in there and we'll talk on the side because we want to help you, of course, personally. But yeah, guys, listen to Ray. Understand that me and Holly got your back if you can't do it, but we'll try to help you in the meantime.
I was thinking
And for
also,
anybody new that's watching this, don't, this doesn't happen to everybody. Normal people just have tanks, never deal with this stuff. As long as you set up properly, keep it clean. Like Shyla's got fry. Shyla's got breeding seahorses. That's a different
And
situation.
I'll say this too. My male that was having all the fry,
Mm-hmm.
I lost him at a young age.
Mm.
And I think that contributed to losing him. I think that they have weaker immune systems from the reproduction
So
process.
maybe,
I've
so maybe,
always
maybe, maybe not weaker immune
always
systems,
had
but
more trouble with my males.
maybe they're giving more of their resources to the fry
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah,
That's kind of how I feel about it. He was more sensitive to things going on in the tank
sure.
than my other seahorses were. I lost him first. And he always had problems in between fry batches. He always had bacterial infection. He was in and out of the hospital, I want to say 4 times before I lost him
See, and
in a
that's so
matter of a couple years.
crazy to me because my very first seahorse, the big old
Hmm.
purple male, he lived
Hmm.
forever. He gave me so many fry. Never had a problem.
Never had a problem. And they're all different. That's why I say, look
Yeah,
at Dandy. Dandy's been handicapped pretty much his whole life, but he's my oldest seahorse that never gets bacterial infections
yeah,
or any of the. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
They're all
So
different, I
So
guess.
don't be
So,
scared. Anybody new, don't be scared because you can just get a seahorse tank and, never have a problem. All the stuff we're
mhm.
talking about is problems. I want to do an episode where we talk about the good stuff again. But when we're dealing with the problems, that's what we talk about. But Ray,
Mhm.
did you want
yeah,
to say something?
Shyla, if you are going to treat this with meds and doing it inside the tank to control the temperature, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy something special for it. You look around your house there may be a glass container, plastic container that you're able to fit in. And as long as you can measure the amount of water you're going to put into that container, and as long as before you put it into the tank, you take out water out of the tank for the displacement amount, then you shouldn't have a problem. You shouldn't have to necessarily go out and buy something just for this duration of treating with the
Wait, what are we talking about?
Like any container will work. Like she's talking about getting a different breeder box, to isolate her male. And Ray's saying you can use any container around your house that'll work, like a Tupperware or some kind of glass container,
glass is
or
even better because
as
it
long
helps
as you
to
can
weigh it.
measure.
So we're talking
Mhm.
about having the male seahorse contained in a container on the side of the
Oh
tank
no, on the inside.
where
Inside the tank, because that's how she can control the temperature.
I gotcha. But how is the water not shared?
Well, because
because
there's
it's
no holes in the container.
above the water line of the tank.
So he's sitting in the same water
No,
for however long.
the
He has
container
his
is
own
going to be
water.
sitting in. You're going to have to fasten it at the top of the tank. And
Yep.
obviously the edges are going to have to be higher than what the water in the tank level is. And you're
Gotcha.
going to have to be able to fasten it there. But it as long as it's a tank or a container that will fit inside the
So
tank,
he's only in the tank for the temperature.
you need
Yes.
something
Okay.
there.
Yeah. So he's not sharing water, but
Gotcha.
the temperature of the water in the tank is controlling the temperature of his water. So she doesn't have to run a hospital
I
tank.
gotcha. I gotcha.
Is the point.
Are we medicating in this or
Well,
no?
she was talking about it.
Yes.
I'm assuming that she is when she was looking up and when she posted that bit about the furon. So I'm assuming,
Because that would be dividing by gallons, right?
yeah.
Like you
So
said.
you
She said
could, but yeah, you'd have
when I
to
mentioned
measure it
when I
out.
mentioned the math aspect to determine how much to use for the given volume, she puts here, I will use the internet for math.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Well, the internet
Well,
isn't
I
always
mean,
right either.
How long? Let me ask you guys this, because I'm not doing it this way. We always use a 10-gallon tank, but if you made a batch of it, say you followed the directions and made yourself a 10-gallon batch of medication, how long does it last?
Uh,
Like,
ooh,
does the
it
efficiency
starts,
disappear in
it
a
starts
day?
degrading as soon as you liquefy it.
mm,
So it wouldn't pay to just make a big batch and then use it a little at
No.
a time.
mm.
Gotcha.
Bummer. Good idea though.
Right.
Uh,
If it would work,
I
but
have
no.
scales that weigh milligrams, so I found it easy. If I had tablet or powder, whatever, I could weigh out the
Mhm.
amount that I calculated to use for whatever size container I was treating in.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's he's a good age, almost 3 years old.
and how many batches has he had? I'm curious
How many?
because I know you've had. Well, I mean, we don't know much about Whitey Eye, to be
No.
honest, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is
Where
more a
did she
Chris
find out?
question,
Did
or
Chris
is
tell
Chris?
her that the lifespan is shorter?
My guess is probably because I think he's
Yeah,
talked to her a lot
Uh,
about them.
I wasn't aware of that.
I wasn't
I
either.
know Reed
So,
Eye and Aractus, basically they have the same capable lifespan
which was what though?
under ideal conditions. And if you got an
Yes.
ideal specimen, 10, 11 years.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Because I mean, to be honest, if you keep seahorses for 7 years, you've done a great job,
Mhm.
right? They can be kept 11, 12 years, 14 even. But I mean, if you keep a
Mhm.
seahorse tank and the same seahorses for 7, 8 years, you got the seahorse whisperer
I
approval.
think they're doing good
Because
even if they make 5.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
most people post these amazing pictures of tanks and the tank lasts 6 months and that's not doing it, right? So anyways, um back to what we were saying, if Shyla does the math and all that good stuff, was the reason she wants to do it within the tank because she can't set up another tank?
Yeah, she hasn't the funds to buy a chiller for something else. Chillers are awful expensive.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's keeping the temperature down in a hospital tank, which is something I always fought with too.
yeah,
Yeah, like I said, but because we're worried about the bacteria growth, not necessarily, how warm the seahorses can take higher temperatures. It's the bacteria growth. In a hospital tank, you're changing the water a lot. So theoretically,
Yeah.
you could control it with water changes, especially
Well,
like
not
for
not her
me,
temperature.
it,
If she doesn't have air,
Yeah,
for
I
me,
don't like it.
no.
I don't like it. Yeah. And no,
yeah,
go ahead with what you were
for
saying, Ron.
me, like when I was doing fry, because I had them in small containers,
Mhm.
that was how I kept their temperature down, was in because I did their
Massive
water
water
changes so
changes.
frequently.
Yeah. I just don't like it because there's already a problem. So the
Mhm.
bacteria is already like I don't listen, guys, I'm not a
Mhm.
scientist.
You're trying to keep the
I only can
bacteria
tell you
that's
what
present
happens
on
with
that seahorse
seahorses.
from expanding.
It's on the seahorse, right?
Mhm.
So go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, the bacteria there with the seahorse, if you elevate the temperature, then that bacteria that is there is going to multiply at a faster rate the higher the temperature goes.
Because it's
Yeah,
already on
and
in whatever the
what we're trying to
seahorse,
do is
right?
get it down to minimize that
Yeah.
expansion so that the medication can take
Mhm.
over either that, or if we're doing just continual water changes with no meds, we want to control it long enough so that seahorse's immune system can finally kick in and take
Chicken.
over.
Yep. Absolutely.
But if you're using cold enough water on your water changes, you can keep the water that cold. It depends on how cold your water is coming out.
Well, no, but you're
But
The
in
telling
her
problem
area,
I get in the summer here is my tap water will come out at 74 degrees. You know
right,
what I'm
right.
saying? If your water's real cold, then theoretically, I guess it could be
in 90
done.
degree,
It
if your
could.
room is 90 degrees, a smaller container is going to heat up even faster than a larger container.
Right.
Yep, that's true.
It definitely depends on temperature. If you're in that situation, don't chance it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is, I feel like we're in the after party because we're talking about things we don't usually talk about live. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. The answer really is keep your water super duper clean, and then you
Mhm.
never have a problem. And for anyone new watching, seriously, you usually don't have a problem. Like I've kept so many seahorse tanks, never had these problems. That's why I hate that every one Wednesday we end up talking about something bad, and it's like somebody new is going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with that." I didn't, in multiple tanks for
Yeah.
years. It doesn't have to be that way if you set up properly. And I'm not saying Shyla didn't. Again, Shyla's seahorses had fry, and now she's got an
They grew up.
overcrowded tank. Yeah,
Well, I
Yeah.
have
We're
lots of
taking up
experience with seahorses, and I still did things that I shouldn't have done, or didn't do things that I should have done.
Mhm.
right, exactly. I'm just saying for anybody new that watches ever, if you watch us later, hey, we can tell you and help you set up for seahorses. You'll never deal with this stuff. Well, I can't say never, but you shouldn't deal with this stuff if you set
For
up
the most part.
properly. I mean, like I don't want people to be scared to keep seahorses because you shouldn't be. But for Shyla, we're of course as a community here to help you.
Mhm.
And I would say that um doing the math, like, so let's finish this, guys, because I actually have to work at 5 a.m. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Turn the clock
But
back.
I care. I'm here. What?
Just turn the clock back.
Yeah, right. Tell my boss that. But I was gonna say I'd like some better pictures, Shyla, if you could send some more to the chat. I love that you said that it hasn't turned white or clear. That
Mhm.
With a
matters.
light shining on
And
it to make it brighter.
yeah, that'd be helpful. And in the meantime, as you prepare to possibly quarantine within the tank to keep the temperature cooler and get your medications in order, which I think is a great move, and do your math and division, I just would say, in the meantime, yes, do some massive water changes for sure, because that can't hurt anything. That can only help.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep the temperature right, the salinity right, all that stuff, clean water can only help. And then I'm just debating on some things that I'm thinking about as I'm reading everything. So let's talk on the side. Because again, we don't know Whitey Eye, to be honest. But um, I feel like you have a clear plan in place and gather the medications. Let's talk on the side, is where I'm going to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we're trying to keep anything from anybody, but I'm not, I'm not, I want to, ask questions where she can answer
Mm-hmm.
immediately and go back and forth and try to figure it out. I don't like the idea of treating a seahorse in that small of a container, only because the medication is so intense. But you know what? If she decides to try it, maybe that ends up being something we end up using in the future. Like, that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing,
The
right? It
intense
works better.
medication isn't going
Who
to
knows?
be intense if you do the proper math. It
If
should
you
be
do the
exactly
proper
the
math.
same. Like if you got a gallon as
Yeah.
opposed to 10, you put in 1/10 of the medication.
1/10. Yeah.
So wait. So how are you keeping the water flowing within the container that's flowing,
You have
circulation,
to put in an
whereas it's not
open-ended
getting into the
airline.
other water? So you just stick an open-ended airline
Yeah.
in, so it's just
And you
bubbling.
need something for hitch too.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't. We're live. I need to get us not live, because I don't know. I wanna hear and see. I have thoughts, but I'm not always right. So let's talk on the side and see what we come up with. But I meant for us to talk about New Year's resolutions before we ended.
I've never ever made a New Year's resolution in my life.
I
I'll,
don't either. I do goals. I make goals, but I don't really have
I'll be 82 next month. I've never made
resolution.
a resolution.
Well, I'm gonna say I do have one. And if by this time next year, this face isn't slimmer and this gray isn't, my plan is, guys, actually, I'd love your opinions. My plan is I'm sick of this gray, right? It grows out and I look like a raccoon because it's right here. So, what I'm going to do is called gray wash. And basically, I'm going to put gray streaks in my hair so that it looks like
Mm-hmm.
highlighted, not blonde, but
Mm-hmm.
gray. And then as it grows out, I'm just going to be an old gray witch. That's my
I'll
plan.
have to see how that looks because, yeah, I have a lot of gray too. As you can see, I'm trying to wait till around my birthday to color my hair, but
Mine never stayed gray for
Well,
long. It ended up going white pretty fast.
I'm just
I
saying,
don't
I
know.
think,
I've
like,
never let mine go that long, right?
I don't even care.
right. And that's my point, right? Is I don't want to care
Yeah.
anymore. I don't want to care. I don't want to have to diet. I don't want to have to pay for all this
Yeah.
stuff. So
Why not just
basically,
let it
my
go
sister
natural
in
then?
law,
Try that and then it grows in.
well, because if I went natural,
Then it
literally
looks like
within,
mine where
like,
you've got
within a month, I'd be gray down to
yeah,
here.
Yeah, but
exactly.
And I'd
eventually it's
look
going to
like,
grow out.
Yeah, and you cut it
yeah,
as you go, but it
eventually.
takes a long time. That's years.
We're not doing that, Ray. Um, so you might see me with a really cool new do next time or within a few times. And if you hate it, let me know. I mean, I'm good. I don't take insults badly, but I'm trying to figure it out. Growing old gracefully is not my thing. I'm trying. But um anyways, no New Year's resolutions for anybody else. Mine is to fix my hair and lose some weight. because I've been drinking too. I told everybody in the Wine Wednesday chat earlier, I'm gonna limit my drinking and my social activities to only Wednesdays, so you guys get it all.
And
Yay.
we're going to start a lottery up to see how many days you
A
left.
lot.
Well,
You
about me,
should've waited
I'm
until we
not
stopped
drinking at
meanwhile.
all until my birthday time. So not even Wednesdays.
Yeah? Okay, what's that about, Holly? Real
Pretty
quick
much
before
the
we end.
same thing. Well, the weight loss thing, because like we talked before, I'm right about to where 20, 30 pounds, and that's all I need to lose, really, I feel like.
Yeah.
But another thing is that I have issues with osteoarthritis in my knee, and I have like a nerve issue that's similar to sciatica. And it
Sure.
might be aggravated by the alcohol causing inflammation.
Gotcha.
And I don't know well enough whether it is or not because I haven't quit drinking long enough to notice a difference. Like a week or
Yeah.
two, I can't tell a difference. But if I quit drinking
Sure.
for a month, will it be different? I don't know. And I
Right.
don't drink a lot. You know, I drink here and there. So I can't really judge. I'm not consistent enough
Sure.
to say if it makes a difference or not. So I'm wondering if I quit altogether for long enough, if it's going to
Yep.
make a difference. The other thing I notice a
So
difference in the time of year because I didn't have any trouble at all during the summer. But now that it's
yeah.
winter, everything is freaking acting up. And I'm like suffering
Well,
all the
that's the
time.
weather for
So
sure.
everything else.
But I would say that me and Holly are gonna do these little tests and let you guys know how our resolutions go. But I would also say, even if we don't do Wine Wednesday, we'll still be here
Yeah.
on Wednesdays for the community for sure. Um, and yeah, with that for tonight, guys, I'm so sorry. I've been training at work. I was telling them in the chat, I literally had to be at work at 5. I came home, I had to be back at work at 2, work till 10. I'm exhausted. So I'm sorry I kept turning it off, the camera off tonight, but I'm like, literally, I know I look like hell. So, anyways, if you're new to Seahorses, we will be back next week. We are here for any questions, even the basic ones. We want to do more to help as a community and grow this community and have these Wine Wednesdays become something that helps other people. But for tonight, I was just too tired to do anything too much. But I still think, Shyla, contact us on the side. Hopefully, we can help you. And for tonight, I'm going to say happy Wine Wednesday. Anything else we got to say, guys? I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I can't
No,
even.
other than it looks like Zan's resolution is she's finally going to start her take.
What?
Yeah, but
Oh,
I hope
that might have been the
so.
same one last year.
I hope so. Yep. She says she thinks she might have said that last year, but it's another year. So this could be the year.
Zen, we need you to start the
Yeah.
tank. We need you to.
Yeah.
And then report back everything good that
Mhm.
happens, because I really do hate that most of these Wine Wednesdays, like, again, we're here for the
Mhm.
community. If something's going wrong, or even with one of us, something is going wrong, that's what we're going to talk about. But I hate that anybody new coming might be like, oh, geez, it sounds like, keeping seahorses is awful. No, it's not. It's just that whatever we're doing, whatever's going on is causing the problem and we're dealing with it. But I would hate for, I hope more people want to keep seahorses, and I would love to have more good examples like you, Zen. So get it together. Happy New Year. All right.
Sophie's tank still
With
doing good.
that, guys. Well, what'd you
Sophie's
say?
tank is still doing good.
Nice.
Oh, thank God. Sophie's gonna come back too. I just got to get with her on the side. So, we still need to do the newcomer episode.
And Holly,
I'm gonna get my stuff together.
Holly, I'll contact you about your knee.
Oh, nice.
Been through that for
Wait, what?
many years.
Yeah. No, I do. I'm overdue for my injection because I spaced them out farther. I get corticosteroid injections.
Yeah.
And I went
Mm.
5 months this time instead of the 3 because I was doing so well in the summer. But what I'm learning is that it's worse in the winter, so I should space them closer
Oh, yeah.
together and then space them farther apart in the warm months.
That makes
Apparently,
sense.
I
It
don't
really
know
does.
enough. So Ray, you'll have to educate me on that and tell me what works.
I wish my mom was still alive because she had to get those shots.
Really,
too.
I need
Absolutely.
a new knee, but we're trying to put it off till I'm older.
Right.
Is the
Right.
idea.
Well, I've got a new knee on
Well, and
one
I would
side, but
say
the other
again.
side I can't do because I can't have operations anymore.
Oh,
So I've done a lot of investigative work and did some experimenting and got my doctor to cooperate, and now I'm not suffering anymore that way.
well, that part's good. That part's good.
We'll talk about that on the side. And I would say again, for anybody new watching, is like, why are they talking about their knees? Well, guess what? This is
Because
an
we're getting
amazing
old.
community. No, yes, but also this is a community, right? Once you join and you're with us, we're gonna help you with your seahorses and your knees. So there you go. All right. For tonight, Happy New Year,
Good night.
everyone. We will see you next week. Everybody say cheers. I'm gonna end it
Cheers.
before I love you.